Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. So tomorrow episode 3 comes out for the book of Boba Fett, and it seems like our green armored clad warrior is about to have a showdown with Tatooine's many crime lords. It's gonna be rough, people are gonna die, they're gonna lose their limbs, and it's gonna be freaking awesome. More importantly, we're gonna finally learn about who exactly Boba Fett is, or at least what this rendition of Boba Fett is. Will he be the old, ruthless bounty hunter we knew from the original trilogy who disintegrates his enemies without remorse? Or is he a reformed killer, older, wiser, and far more patient and reluctant to get into a fight? Well, to truly understand Boba Fett, we have to truly understand the individual who raised him, Jango Fett, and to truly understand Jango Fett, we have to understand the individual who mentored him. Jaster Mereel. Jaster Mereel officially starts out in the Star Wars Expanded Universe. This was before Disney bought Star Wars, and a lot of that content from this era is now considered legendary, which means it's no longer true to the original canon. But in the second season of The Mandalorian, when Din Djarin takes a look at the chain code on Boba Fett's armor, we'd see an inscription about Jaster Mereel describing him as the mentor of Boba Fett. And so, like a lot of things in the Expanded Universe, Disney has basically copied it and brought it back to the canon. Now, who exactly is Jaster Mereel? Well, he is from Concord Dawn, and before becoming a Mandalorian, he actually served as a journeyman protector. Concord Dawn was a sparsely populated agricultural frontier world which had always been closely tied to the Mandalorian people and has also produced several Mandalorian heroes and also villains. Jaster Mereel would be born on the planet of Concord Dawn, and from a very young age, he basically wanted to be a part of the Journeyman Protectors. Throughout Mandalorian history, the Journeyman Protectors have remained relatively neutral in the various conflicts that have plagued their system. They've dedicated themselves to keeping citizens on Concord Dawn and in the Mandalorian sector safe. They remained removed from politics and were highly respected by most individuals. Jaster Mereel was a man of extremely strong character, and when he found out that his superior officer was indeed corrupt, he ends up killing him. Jaster Mereel would be forced to leave the service and would instead join a Mandalorian mercenary group instead. His position within the Journeyman Protectors on Concord Dawn would be taken over by a young man with the surname of Fett. And yes, by Fett I mean Jango Fett's father, and also Boba Fett's father as well, or is it his grandfather? I'm kind of confused about this. And so from the very beginning, the Fetts actually belong to a law enforcement family, which is, I guess, kind of ironic from what we know about him. And this was a specific type of law enforcement family, mind you. You see, Journeyman Protectors were essentially like the lawmen of old on the frontiers of the Wild West. They were very much on equal footing with the criminals and were usually outmanned and outgunned and relied on local citizens to become deputies to help them. Therefore, Journeyman Protectors had to bend the rules to survive and were nowhere near as clean-cut as your average core lawman. And so the Fetts, starting out with Jango, always had a very strong sense of what was right and wrong, and this sense came from the gut and not some codebook. So it comes to no surprise that Boba Fett would rescue someone like Fennec Shand from the Dune Sea. It's exactly the type of behavior you would expect from a Journeyman Protector. Okay, now back to Jaster Mereel. With his fighting experience and strong moral code, he would quickly rise to the top ranks of the Mandalorians. By 60 BBY, Jaster Mereel would actually become the Mandalore, or the leader of all of the Mandalorian clans. At the time, things were not going very well for the Mandalorian people. The rest of the galaxy was enjoying a golden age of peace, and the Jedi and Republic were focused on limiting the influence of this warrior race. And so, as a result, the Mandalorians split into many extreme factions. You had the new Mandalorians who rejected the ancient ways and adopted pacifism and economic reform as their main political ideology. And then you had the regressive Death Watch who rejected modernization and wanted to return to the Mandalorians' old ways of looting and pillaging their way across the galaxy. Jaster Mereel would also have his own belief system known as the SUPERCOMMANDO CODEX. This was a series of behaviors and guidelines influenced by Mereel's own beliefs, but also by the ancient Mandalorian code. The idea was to create a brand of responsible and honorable mercenaries who were highly skilled and trustworthy. The New Mandalorians and the Death Watch both had serious problems with Jaster Mereel's more centrist ideology. But only Death Watch would actually try to fight Jaster Mereel. As a matter of fact, the leader of the Death Watch, Tor Vizsla, once had been a Mandalorian serving underneath Jaster Mereel. He was extremely jealous and bitter about who Jaster Mereel was. His lofty values and morals made him look like a scumbag who did anything he wanted with no accountability. The Mandalorians who followed the Super Commando Codex would be known as the True Mandalorians, and they would engage Death Watch during the Mandalorian Civil War. In 58 BBY, the Mandalorian Civil War reached Concord Dawn. After losing a firefight against the Death Watch, Jaster Mereel and his men would seek shelter in the home of Journeyman Protector Fett, who had replaced Jaster years ago. Death Watch would find out what was happening and would capture the entire Fett family. When Jango Fett's mother shoots off a round, killing one of the Death Watch captors, chaos ensues. Jango Fett somehow manages to escape and is saved by Jaster Mereel. Unfortunately, the rest of his family is not as lucky. Jaster didn't have time to calm down or comfort Jango Fett. His own squad of soldiers were heavily outnumbered and trapped behind enemy lines. He would need Jango's knowledge of the local area to help him and his men escape. Jango would go from being a scout to actually helping the True Mandalorians carry out an ambush against the Death Watch. Jaster Mereel would closely watch young Jango during these missions and decided to adopt him as a foundling after the battle was over. Now, during Jango's time as a True Mandalorian, he was Jaster Mereel's favorite, and widely considered by the rest of the Mandalorians as his protege and eventual successor. Jango Fett was a bright-eyed young soldier, and he was 100% committed to the True Mandalorian cause. The Super Commando Codex that structured the True Mandalorians was loosely based on the ancient canons of honor that the Mandalorian Crusaders and Neo-Crusaders had followed. Jaster Mereel had reformed these codes to fit more modern times. Many Mandalorians had become wary of the more savage and dishonorable behavior of some of the individuals within their ranks. This new Super Commando Codex forbids stealing, raping, pillaging, and killing innocent civilians. It set forth some standards when interacting with clients, and overall made the job of being a Mando merc a lot easier and much more predictable. It was overall a very good strategy and really terrific for the Mandalorian brand. Jango would slowly work his way up within the ranks of the True Mandalorian faction. In 52 BBY, during a routine mission to Quarter 6, Jango would be given his first command. Unfortunately, the entire mission was a Death Watch ambush designed to kill Jaster Mereel. When the True Mandalorians landed on Quarter 6, they found themselves in a lot of trouble. The landing zone was not only not clear, several heavy weapons had also zeroed in on the location. Soon, the True Mandalorian offensive would stall, and Jaster Mereel would be gunned down after his own second-in-command abandoned him. The old Mandalorian would later on die in Jango's arms. Seeing his mentor die really shocked Jango Fett. I mean, sure, he's seen death and destruction before this, but to see one of his True Mandalorian brothers betray another one of his brothers really kind of woke him up to his situation. This would chip away Jango's belief in the Super Commando Codex and in others. In the following years, Jango Fett would take over Jaster Mereel's position, and the Death Watch would continue to hound them until the True Mandalorians were tricked into going into battle against a group of Jedi led by none other than Count Dooku. The skirmish would be known as the Battle of Galadron, and Jango Fett would be the sole survivor amongst his True Mandalorians. The young warrior had killed several Jedi with his bare hands, but alas could not save even a single one of his own soldiers. Shortly after, Jango Fett would be sold to slavery and linger in anguish thinking about what had happened to him. He would re-emerge in the galaxy once again as a bounty hunter who fought just for coin. Which honestly wasn't all that different from what he was doing before, except now he's just all by himself. Without a codex or a leader to follow now, the thing that Jango Fett worshipped above all else was coin and self-resiliency. Jango Fett realized by this point in his life that he could only really just trust one individual, and that was himself. Jango Fett would later on enter into one of the most lucrative business deals in the galaxy when he decides to become the progenitor of the entire clone army. But when Jango Fett gets Boba Fett, his priorities shift once again. Teaching the young boy everything he knew suddenly became his sole priority. And what Jango Fett teaches Boba Fett is a mixed bag of lessons he's learned from his own life. He'll teach Boba Fett things about what it's like to be a journeyman protector, things that he learned from his original biological father. He'll also teach Boba Fett about the Super Commando Codex and everything he's learned from Jaster Mereel, his adopted father. He'll also teach Boba Fett exactly what it's like to survive on his own for so long, and this will also be another portion of Boba Fett's personality, the one that is suspicious of working with others and very resilient. Ultimately, Boba Fett represents a perfect mix of all of these qualities, which is why he's probably one of the deadliest bounty hunters in the entire galaxy. Because there's nothing more dangerous than a man with a code who also understands when to throw that code away. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. And as usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.